Desde las sombras de Palacio Nacional.
Down to the muddy trenches of politics. This is La Posilga, the pig pen of dirty politics.
Greetings, survivors of the Tlacoyo and lead diet. Welcome once again to this filthy corner where the truth stinks as much as the conscience of a congressman or senator. I'm Luis Berman, and this is La Posilga, the cesspool of politics, where the truth not only hurts but reeks of official sewage. Today I bring you a feast of cynicism that's finger-licking good. There's no doubt that Mexican politics is that fascinating ecosystem where evolution decided to go backwards and stay in the state of a primate with a budget. Today we're gathered for a spectacle that would make even the Cirque du Soleil pale in comparison. Not because of the acrobatics, but because of the mental juggling our national heroes have to do to avoid biting their tongues and dying from the poison. We'll see how we transform it. The transformation transforms, but into a stone of indifference, incompetence, and indolence. I am your guide in this valley of tears and corruption, broadcasting from the one and only, the unmatched, the foul Posilga. Get out the disinfectant and the hypocrite repellent, because today the pig pen is overflowing with top-quality mud. Throw more sawdust on the floor. We're starting here, and we're starting strong, because right now in this country, insecurity doesn't even respect the stones anymore. It turns out that in Teotihuacán, that place where people go to recharge their energy and get sold plastic quartz crystals made in China, a guy decided that the best way to connect with the universe was to climb the pyramid of the moon and start firing left and right. Just imagine the scene. Tourists from Canada, Russia, Brazil, and Colombia,
todos muy sonrientes,
with their little straw hats, and suddenly, boom, a madman with a gun and a knife in hand. The result, a Canadian woman dead, and the shooter, a certain Julio Cesar Hasso Ramirez, who decided the world was too small for his misery and gave himself a one-way ticket to the afterlife. The most pathetic thing of all is that while the guy was calmly carrying his gun on top of the pyramid, security was nowhere to be found. Of course, after the shooting, the National Guard and state security showed up to cordon off the area, as always when only the shell casings and the shock were left. And to top it off, our brilliant President Chachis sent a tweet saying that it hurts us deeply. Yes, ma'am, it hurts, but what hurts more is the lack of security protocols. 50 days before a World Cup, Mexico is always so hospitable. On the other hand, let's move on to the drama of Edith Guadalupe, a young woman who went out looking for a job and ended up dead in the basement of a building. This is where our bureaucracy is at its very finest. The family reports her disappearance, and the prosecutor's office, with that efficiency they're known for, tells them she probably ran off with her boyfriend and to come back in 72 hours. But they didn't stop there. The young woman's father reported that they asked him for money to speed up the process. What level of service? All that was missing was for them to accept Premier points as payment. In the end, the family had to do the job that was supposed to be done by the Capitol Police and set up blockades so that the authorities would get off their butts. They found the young woman in a plastic bag in a building on Revolution Avenue here in Mexico City. And meanwhile, the prosecutor, Berta, a high-ranking official from the Morena party, of course, says they don't make things up. It turns out that the head of the missing persons prosecutor's office, Luis Eduardo Poletti, already has a history of not seeing, not hearing, and not investigating since his time at the anti-torture prosecutor's office. But don't worry, the inept president says the prosecutor is very good and honest with those friends. Who needs justice? On the other hand, in the Department of Things That Happen and Nobody Knows Why, we had an accident in Chihuahua where 2 state police commanders and 2 United States officers died. The official version first said they were coming from destroying a meth lab, but when Claudia made a face like, "And what are those Americans doing there?" The Chihuahua prosecutor, Cesar Jauregui, came out with a story worthy of Netflix. No, they were drone instructors who were 6 hours away from the lab and just asked for a ride to the Capitol. Wow, what luck you get into an official truck for a ride and end up handing over the equipment. That's what happens when you don't have Uber around. Now let's go to our Leon. From the podium, Senator Changoleon Gerardo Fernandez Noroña, who by now looks more like an Angora cat with fleas. It turns out that this despicable person went to San Felipe del Progreso in the state of Mexico to show off his achievements on the ground. Because, of course, after leaving the presidency of the Senate in 2025, what he wants most is for people to keep sniffing his farts in his footsteps. But, oh, surprise, reality, that damn thing that doesn't follow the fourth transformation script, stood right in front of him. There was Inocencia Gonzalez, a mother with a broken soul, searching for her daughter Cynthia, who disappeared in 2024. Inocencia. She did what any citizen with blood in their veins would do, confront this bastard. Did you hear Noroña say with that hypocrisy that she should already be paying taxes? That he would like to meet a mother searching for her child? Nice aim. He had one right in front of him, and instead of handing her the microphone, the guy turned into a pillar of salt. What we saw in the video, which is already viral, is enough to make you lose your lunch. While the lady was asking for justice, Comrade Noroña used an ancient ostrich technique. Ignore, minimize, and let his lackeys do the dirty work. There you have your star cameraman, Emiliano Gonzalez, recording the mother searching for her child. Not to document her struggle, but to intimidate her. Because that's how these damn bastards operate. If they can't convince you with lies, they record you so you feel the weight of the state on your shoulders. Here's the video for those who haven't seen the live informational assembly.
I'm a damn quiet daughter. They've seen you because they screwed you over. A mother. I'm a mother. No.
No. You are the first ones living in the construction, Prince of Noroña.
They would be our fellow commanders who would continue to set up a frame-up against our comrades who are going to die in Noroña.
Who will be able to shout, the people who are with them, who will be able to shout like that, I don't care. In the end, I'm doing it. Tell this man that if there are searching mothers, sorry, you've already been recorded. Long live the people of Mexico. And that's how it works. The government gathers the people.
And just like in this cartoonish politics, there has to be a villain who wants to be a hero. Alejandro Alito Moreno appeared, the leader of the PRI who has more spots than a Dalmatian. And he took the opportunity to unleash his full arsenal of adjectives. He called Noroña a miserable rat, a moronarco, and stinky. Alito. He says this is what an insensitive narco regime looks like. And even though coming from him it sounds like a joke told at a funeral, the truth is that the spectacle of Noroña turning his back on a mother who was only asking to be heard is, to say the least, disgusting. And what has our brand new senator said after the scandal? Nothing. Complete silence. Meanwhile, the video of Inocencia Gonzalez being harassed by the followers of the Morena member is circulating all over the internet, and Noroña prefers to tweet about Corina Machado and criticize the right. Because, of course, it's much easier to talk about what's happening in other countries. Explaining why you're afraid of a woman who's just looking for her daughter. Let's remember that this is the same person who, in 2025, he denied the forced disappearances and accused the opposition of using the searching mothers as instruments. For him, pain isn't real unless it has the maroon seal of approval. And in case everything so far hasn't made you nauseous enough, let's go to the man with the hot seat, the vaccine negotiator, the frequent flyer of silk diplomacy, Marcelo Ebrard Casaubon. It turns out that Malusos Chelito, the one who was supposed to save our lives during the pandemic with those mortality numbers that put us on the global podium for tragedy. He also had time to play Father of the Year. What's wrong with his kid, Marcello Patrick, going to live in London like a king, or better yet, like a diplomatic dictator, as his cheerleaders would say, on minimum wage? The tiny little detail that Mr. Marcello forgets is that the lodging was paid for with all Mexicans' tax money, and the then ambassador, a public servant, Josefa Gonzalez Blanco, that lady who overnight discovered that properties multiply faster than potholes in Mexico City. By the way, it turns out she has a portfolio of 6 houses worth 58 million pesos. Among them, an apartment worth $1.5 million, supposedly acquired as a donation. In 2023, you draw your own conclusions. Anyway, we're talking about rents in that place, in London, of 80 to 100,000 pesos a month. Quite a tip. Let's not mention the allowance, since no one will take those extra 25,000 pesos a month from them. And who paid the bill for the yoke? Javier in London. Well, you, ma'am, who's watching me and can't afford a kilo of eggs. And you, sir, who prays that the subway doesn't catch fire. Today. Marcello says it's legal, ethical, and moral, of course, in the ethics code of the Fourth Transformation. Moral is everything that benefits the family, and legal is everything. If they don't catch you, nothing happens. If they do, there's always a way to justify it. But the sweetest thing, what really brings a tear to my eye, the acid kind, is the self-congratulatory campaign. Marcello has set up a circus of trained SEALs on social media, accounts that smell like bots from miles away, dedicated to saying that Marcello is the statesman Mexico needs. He cheers himself on and applauds in front of the mirror. And by the way, he gets the backing of commentators like Ciro Gomez Leiva, who sees him as a high-caliber politician. Caliber, the kind they're sticking to, all of us with these guys. And speaking of specimens, the 4T fauna, we couldn't leave out the paladin of official truth, Genaro Villamil. The man is very upset, poor guy. He can't sleep thinking about the 8 children who were victims of a shooting in Louisiana. What sensitivity, what cross-border empathy. The bad thing is that Don Genaro forgets that he gets paid in Mexican pesos and not in dollars, while he cries over Louisiana. And he completely ignores the fact that in his own country, 170 people disappear every week. Yes, you heard that right. 153 men and 17 women vanish every 7 days. Meanwhile, Villamil is busy on X, formerly Twitter, indulging his morbid fantasies and retweeting everything that happens thousands of miles away, as long as it's not in Guerrero, Morelos, Sinaloa, or now even in Teotihuacán. Is this cynicism elevated to a state policy? If it happens in the United States, it's a tragedy. If it happens in Guanajuato, it's right-wing propaganda. Villamil doesn't inform, he indoctrinates, he doesn't analyze, he covers up. He's the head of a propaganda machine that prefers to see the speck in the American's eye rather than the beam and the trail of blood in his own. To top off this poor circus act, we have the Iron Lady of Austerity, Claudia Sheinbaum, delivering the final blow to the INE while she goes on and on about democracy. Even in Spain, it's as if the wolf were giving lectures on the rights of sheep while cleaning its fangs with a toothpick. Because speaking of the INE, I can't let this gem go by. It turns out that Guadalupe today has turned the Institute into a social and business club. It was revealed that high-ranking officials of the INE have distributed contracts worth more than 113 million pesos among themselves before becoming officials. The director of administration, Jesus Octavio Garcia Gonzalez, was a supplier to Tade in Sonora, and now he is the one who manages the 14 billion budget of the INE. That's just to mention one of his shady deals, because there are more. But anyway, everything stays in the family, among friends, and with the approval of the pro-government transparency. Conflict of interest. Don't be suspicious, it's just technical cooperation between buddies. Noroña, living like a tycoon while preaching austerity, ignoring the reality of mothers searching for the disappeared, not to mention the systematic harassment against women. Journalists like Azucena Oresti, orchestrated from the presidential morning press conferences, of course, and a list of slandered and persecuted people that grows every day. The same goes for media figures, social organizations, activists, or citizens. It's no longer about whether we like them or not. It's about the fact that in this country, exercising the right not to kiss up to those in power has become a high-risk sport, the same sport that we practice here. It's a pleasure to have you all here because the truth is totally worth it. Welcome everyone to the shipwreck. At the end of the day, what we see on the screen is just the makeup on a corpse that refuses to be buried, promises that expire before the milk in the fridge, and characters that switch sides with the same ease that you change your socks. Well, if you can even afford socks after the latest round of inflation. We're trapped in an endless loop of demagoguery where the main character changes colors, but the script stays the same. I'm the good guy, they're the bad guys, and you just pay my salary. This is the transformation that doesn't transform, but it sure sends us the bill. It's that cardboard rhetoric they prescribe to us every morning. We're living through the shining moment of national dignity, the kind that's measured by how many rounds of applause you can get from an audience that, oddly enough, has the same IQ as a spineless cactus. They talk about austerity while wearing a watch on their wrist that's worth more than the elementary school in their hometown, but of course it's Republican austerity, a mystical way of saying that you have to tighten your belt, dear citizen, while they just go up a pant size, hence the official banquet. But let's not fool ourselves. The joke here is that you tell yourself the thanks to us, that wise people you have. It has the memory. Unfortunately, it's golden with Alzheimer's. We love being lied to in a nice way. If they tell us that gas prices aren't going up, even if we see the pump meters spinning like a fan, we prefer to believe it's just an optical illusion from the kid. Politics in Mexico has become a religion with a very low budget. It's a competition to see who can shout the loudest to hide the fact that they have absolutely nothing to say. It's the triumph of form over substance, of the tweet over the treaty, of the meme over the goal. Well, my piggies, we're out of time and my liver can't take any more bile today. I hope you enjoyed this little walk through the sewers of power. And that's how things are in this pigsty. Today's menu included diplomatic nepotism, selective blindness, and a pinch of authoritarianism with a taste of transformation. You know, if your stomach hurts, it's not the food, it's the reality of this country. Violence has already spread to tourist areas just days before the World Cup. American officials go missing in our territory. A woman disappears and her family is asked for money to speed up the search. Noroña remains in his cloud of arrogance. The National Electoral Institute has turned into a social club, and the searching mothers, they're still alone. They're facing a system that prefers to record them to intimidate them rather than help them find their children. You already know how it goes. Keep wallowing in political misery because we'll have more fresh mud for you here. Stay in the shade because the sun burns and politics stinks. I'm the most hated pig, Louis Sperman. Don't forget to subscribe and hit like to help the algorithm. That way, more pigs can come and wallow in the mud. See you in the next installment of this cesspool called Politics. Get out of here, this pigsty doesn't clean itself. Goodbye.
Goodbye. This is La Posilga, the political pigpen with Louis Sperman. Goodbye. Goodbye.